Hey guys, WeQuilt Studio here, and I thought I would shoot some footage of this, what I call ugly quilt that I am making. I needed to de-stress, so I just started sewing some of my least favorite fabrics together just to use them up. And then I turned out with a quilt, as we all do. And I mean, it's not that I hate these fabrics. I don't know, I've had them for a while, and most of them are Waverly fabrics from Walmart, you know, where you can get them cheap. And the black is not real thick. The other ones, like this one, I think it's called Rust, or I can't remember what it's called. That one is relatively thick. And this one is called Marigold. It's pretty thick. And then this one that you see here is a Marcus fabric. I just thought I would try the Marcus fabrics. When I first got them, I thought they were thin, and because, you know, if you're used to motif fabrics are so thick. But I believe I have starch on this one. But I didn't really like this one anyways, so I put that in the mix. But then I didn't have enough fabric for the quilt because I started with like rectangles, which I wish I wouldn't have done that, but I didn't have enough fabric, so then I had to throw in this Marcus fabric, which I do like. I wanted to save this for combining with these other fabrics that I had to make a quilt. So anyway, so I'm just building on it. Here's a picture of it and just ideas that I thought I would do. I have these old appliques. They're kind of like, I cut them on my Cricut Maker. They have heat and bond light on the back. And then I have an embroidery machine where I stitch kind of through them. And I'll show you a quilt that I never finished putting them on. Now this one is a little different because I didn't make this part solid. I can't remember if I decided that I like that or not, but you see, you know, the edges just fray up. I could probably pull that off or cut that. Yeah, was this the one that I liked with this? See, I can't remember. It's been so long. But anyways, you quilt the quilt first, and then you iron this on. Well, you do a placement stitch. You stitch a placement stitch, a basting placement stitch on your quilt. And then you kind of iron this on. I think what I did was I put Elmer's washable school glue like here and maybe here and here just to tack it down, and then you take your embroidery machine and you follow it around to make sure that you're in the right spot, and then you move it or rotate it. There's a whole process that I have. You know, there's a crosshair that you first get your design centered, and you check for rotation while looking at your crosshair, and then rotate it, and then you follow it just to make sure, and then you still fine-tune it. So that's how I did that, and honestly, it looks better in person. I don't know, this is a new camera. I'm not crazy about how vivid the colors are, but because they're not natural. Anyways, so I thought about putting that on this quilt in the parts where I have the blank, you know, the rectangles here. So I got some threads to take off. So, and then I'll be binding it, and so these are the binding samples that I posted it on the community link on my YouTube channel, like they said to put in a welcome post if you own this channel. So I put these up there, and I put my notes next to them to say how I did each one of these, because they're all different. Every one of them is different. And I think my notes are on the back now. They're all pinned on the backs. But, you know, this one is the traditional stitch in the ditch method. You could see. They're all cut at 2.5 inches, by the way. But this one is where you stitch it on the front and flip it to the back and then stitch in the ditch. But I never was crazy about it. Now this one looks good because I could never get it even all the way around. And, you know, I just don't feel like gluing anymore, you know, with the washable school glue. So I'm just not sure if I want to keep doing that. On a lot of my quilts, I do now a blanket stitch. This one is not a blanket stitch. This is the one a lot of people use, where these are all stitch on the back first, the beige ones. But this one is the one where you stitch on the back, flip it over, and then you stitch here, you know, like real close to the edge. And I make it so that it shows up here, not on the binding. So you'll see it there. And I try to get this to match my backing. On all of these, I'm hand stitching the corners when I'm all done. So all these corners are hand stitched. Just on this side, you can see. And it's just a ladder stitch. Yeah, I didn't do this side. I just figure it's narrower. I could have. A lot of the good quilters, you know, take their thread, bring it to the back, and then they do it on the back as well. So, but anyways, yeah, so this is the one that a lot of quilters use. But these three, this one, and this one, are my blanket stitch. And they're all different ways of doing it. I like this one the best, but it takes the longest because you're doing 2 separate stitches. So, like if I were to start with this one, I would tell you, okay, with this one, I took my blanket stitch and I flipped it so it's not your traditional applique blanket stitch where the legs go to the left. This third one is. This is your traditional blanket stitch. You can kind of see the leg going to the left. These two are not. These two are flipped. And then, but this one, and they're all done, the blanket stitches are done with my zipper foot. So the zipper foot is riding along. Let me show you. And this is a zipper foot from an old antique white sewing machine, WHITE. They're really compatible with the Janomes. But I ride it along. And this is loosey-goosey, but it works. You know, I either use a purple thing and hold my finger down. I hold my fingers like this. You know, I got one finger holding it in, the other one holding it down. Or the purple thing or whatever you have that's plastic. And I ride along and do the blanket stitch. And again, it shows on the back like that. You can see it. You can see him there. And into the corner. So it's going to show. And I like it to be far away. Maybe not this far away. I've tried different formulas, but sometimes it gets closer, you know, and I just didn't want to deal with it. Like up here, you could see how, you know, that's from this leg to here is 1/4 inch. Well, I didn't want it any closer than that because then you can see the imperfections that, you know, it's close and then far, too close, or accidentally cuts into your binding, you know. So that's how I've been doing them. And I did, you know, a lot of quilts like this. And my daughter, I made her 2 linen quilts, and she's washed them, and linen's real stretchy. They hold up fine. I worried about this leg being strong enough, you know, but hers are holding up. Now I do increase my tension from 4 to 5 on my machine, my top tension. And this is Omnitex 30 thread, so that's equivalent to like a 35 weight thread. You know, it's a long arm thread, but I like that thickness and the strength of it. It's a poly wrapped or something. Polycore, poly wrapped, I'm not sure. So that's that one. And then I thought, you know what? I'm going to do this one again, but I'm going to give it a victory lap here with a stitch that's about 1/8 of an inch away from the leg. And I just love the way that looks. Well, down here doesn't look so good. I didn't come far enough before I made my turn. And, you know, on the back, again, there's the victory lap. Look how close it is. Okay. And there's the blanket stitch. But I think what it does on the back is it makes it like it was meant to be or something. It kind of finishes it off. I don't know. But this takes twice as long. You know, because you have to do the blanket stitch first, then you come back and you do this. And with this, I believe I used... These are my settings, and I should have showed my settings on this one as well. First one. But I'll show you that in a minute. But on this one, I cut 2.5 inch strips, stitch to the back, 1/4 inch seam, blanket stitch on the front. That's what I showed you. This blanket stitch on the front. My stitch width was 3.0. My stitch length was 1.8. That's the length of the stitches that you can't see, these straight stitches. They're real tiny, 1.8, and there's 3 of them. So, you know, the distance then between the 2 legs is like, I don't know, a little more than 1/4 inch. Okay? So, you know, 1.8 times 3 is what? Let's see. 3.6, 4.6, 4.4. So it's less than 1/4 inch. It's like, I got to get a calculator, but 3.6, 4.6, 5.4. 5.4, so it's almost 1/4 inch. 1/4 inch is 6 mil, so this is about 5.4. So about 1/4 inch. And then this is just what I have saved on my machine. On my machine, I can go to mode 2 and then pull up memory slots. I have a Janome MC 4900. It's really old. But it's so quiet, and it has a beautiful straight stitch. But anyway, so those are just that's the memory slot I have it in. And the stitch on this Janome, if anybody has a memory craft, is M2 stitch number 70. And let's see, where's my, okay. It's up here, it's mode 2, stitch number 70. And you can see it's not double stitched or anything, just the legs are double stitched because they have to go out and back. But these other ones, these dark lines, they're the double stitch, they're like more for applique. They're closer together. You know, this would be the closest one I would say I would use. I think that one is an applique where it's just one stitch in between, but I can't remember. I think it was 69. But I was surprised that Janome didn't have this stitch without having 3 stitches in between, with just having 1 stitch in between. I mean, it says it's Quilter's edition. Wouldn't they have an applique stitch, you know, that's just a single stitch in between? You know, but maybe people like it heavy in their blanket, in their applique, I don't know. But anyway, so that's basically it. And this is just showing what it is. It's forward, forward, leg, forward. So it's 3 stitches forward, then leg swing. And I use the zipper foot. But then the victory lap, I use the bi-level foot. And it's just an aftermarket bi-level foot. And my stitch width was at 2 mils. So the bi-level foot that I bought, they say on Amazon that it's for Janomes and brothers. But if you ever see a foot and it says it's for Janome and brother, don't believe them. Because Janome and brother, they're different. They position your foot in a different spot, and you'll hit your foot and break your machine if you use this foot with your Janome adapter, your regular Janome adapter. Now, I have bought these aftermarket brother type adapters. You know, it looks like a brother adapter. How brother has that white rectangle on the front. I have 2 of these. I have one with this black thing and one with it's like a hook, a silver hook that sticks out. Because the silver hook doesn't get in the way of certain feet. Like a 1/4-inch foot that I have a brother type 1/4-inch foot. It's not a brother 1/4-inch foot, but you can't use it with this. You have to use it with the silver one, the silver hook. But anyways, if you use this with this foot, then you do come close to the back. Is it the back or the front? You do come close to the back, but not as close as you do with the Janome foot. The Janome foot, I think you actually almost hit it, and then the needle bends as it goes in. So anyways, I put it on here. Let's see if I can show that. See how this bi-level foot, this skinny side sticks down, and so it grabs your binding. So my binding is already stitched because of the blanket stitch, so it hooks right on there. But then at 2 mils, I can't move the needle now, but at 2 mils on my stitch width on my machine, the needle will drop right in that center. You can kind of see it. It's right there. So 3.5 mils is center on my machine because I have a 7 mil machine. So I'm basically just moving it to the left of center 1.5 mils, and it gives me that perfect distance. I love this. I love this so much, but it's double work. So then I thought, okay, well, I'll do Oh, then let me show you the settings on the other one that I forgot to show you. This was just the blanket stitch. And on this one, it's basically the same thing. It's the same thing as this one. Okay? It's the same exact because all you're doing is the blanket stitch. This is the back, but so stitch width, stitch length, zipper foot, everything. Now, after I did this one, I thought, okay, what if I just did a regular applique stitch, you know, and let it just swing over, right? Well, I couldn't use this foot for it because it just, there was no way when it hugs the edge, there's no room for it to swing over. Let me try to get it in focus. Okay, if it were to swing over, there's no room. It has to swing over in that left area there. So I had to use my zipper foot again on this one. And I just did it with, you know, holding my finger here. I wish that the Janomes had the shift because, well, I still couldn't use it with this one if you think about it, if it's hugging it. Plus, it's hugging it, but you'd have to glue this down for it to hug it without, like, pushing it off. Like I said, I think this finger is, like, holding it, and this one is on it, and that's how I go along. This is just a regular blanket stitch, and move these out of the way. Same thing, stitch to the back 1/4 inch, blanket stitch on the front. But these are my settings. My stitch width is still 3.0. That's the leg. You know, stitch width is the leg. But my stitch length this time is 2.5, and that's because I'm stitching this part of it on the binding, okay? On the actual binding. So this here, I don't want this to be 1.8 because it's going to show. And it's holding down the binding. It's strong, right? So I could have the legs farther apart. Because remember, if your stitch length is longer, your legs are going to be farther apart, but that's okay. I can have that because this is already holding it down. So, and then you could see it on the back. You know, it's got the same on the back. Corners should be done by hand. Use the zipper foot. So, which one do I like the best? I have no idea. I like this one the best, like I said, but it's a 2-step process. Okay, so there. And let's turn it so you don't see that. So I guess I would love to know what you guys like the best out of these. What do you think looks the best? I mean, you're probably going to say this one that took double work, you know, or a lot of people say, you know what, I just like this one. And you can see I used black. Normally for this top thread, you'd match whatever you're stitching in the ditch, your fabric on top. But I wanted to make it black because I wanted to be able to see it, and I wanted to show people how, you know, the stitch in the ditch isn't always accurate, and you can't really use your ditch foot. Okay, I have the ditch foot here somewhere. You can't really use your ditch foot and keep your needle in the center position, 3.5, because you run the risk of stitching on top of the binding, and it looks terrible. So you have to move your needle over just a hair. What, I wonder if I wrote down what I moved it over. Oh, I didn't, but it wasn't much. It might have been like a 1/2 mil, so instead of 3.5, 3.0. I can't remember. And you could see I went off here. So, yeah. So I would just love to know which of these other people like. I know I just rearranged them. We'll call this 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So, with all that said, let's go ahead and I'll just kind of go back to, I'm just stitching on I'm stitching this on, okay, and I made it narrower than the gray because I just wanted it to be an accent. So this was cut at it was cut at 2 inches. So it'll show at 1.5 when it's all done. This one was cut at 1.5 inches. So it'll just show as a 1-inch strip. So 1.5 to 1 inch. I probably should have made them more drastically different, but I didn't want to go any narrower than 1.5 on here, and this was already cut, and I'm just kind of winging everything with this, to be honest. I'm trying to make it look pretty even though it's ugly, and it's just giving me a stress reliever, as we all know, although it's causing more stress because it's kind of ugly. So I'll just go ahead and the other thing is when you put borders on, you know how you're supposed to measure the length of your quilt, you know, right side, middle, left side, then take the average of the 3 lengths and then cut your border? I didn't do that. So this quilt isn't even really square. So I'm just trying not to stretch it, and you know, a lot of my points don't match, and I'm just kind of sewing along. So I'll just cut, you know, take this all the way down. I basically just took, you know, I measured the perimeter of my quilt and cut up the strips, and then for this long side, you always do the long side first, the 2 long sides. I just took 2 width of fabric, so 2 40-inch fabrics, and sewed them together diagonally, you know, and then I'll just cut off the excess. So that's how I'm going to do it. And this machine, I don't know what's going on, but I've heard newer ones, newer Janomes, they aren't as quiet. If I start this machine out and kind of slower, And then I go faster, it stays quiet. I don't know what it is. And I don't know what kind of motors they used back then. This is from like 2004. But they were good motors. This one stitches at 850 stitches per minute, which is equivalent to the Brother SE2000. But I can't get a straight stitch on that machine, and I returned it. And I really liked the embroidery side of that machine. And the stitching side of that machine, the Brothers, they have pattern shift. So you could do a blanket stitch, set your width, and you can still shift the whole pattern. Janome still don't do that. I just find crazy. So this is probably going to get caught up in there and pull itself down. I can see that happening. So I'm just kind of, as I go, you know, just as the fabric gets to the end here, I line it up, make sure I could see like one thread of the gray underneath. And that's how I'm doing it. Again, trying not to stretch it. And normally, especially with something this thin, I would starch the fabric beforehand, before I even cut it. Well, I forgot to do that with this. So this is like really loosey-goosey. And my sewing table is a vintage desk from Goodwill that I bought for $30. It's a huge, I just kind of went off. I made that too wide because I'm talking. It's a beautiful table. I couldn't even believe they gave it to me for that. I think they just felt sorry for me. And then I went back there and I bought this side table that's oval. It's an oval vintage side table, and it actually fits like right under this desk if I want to tuck it away. And it's got my rotating mat on it. I can cut on it. And then I just have another old table here for ironing. My iron's up there. So, and I could just pull this closer. And then this is for my camera. So I just, you know, everything is on a budget. I don't have a machine with a camera. I really want to get a Brother because of the pivoting, but I might try the SE2000 again. Maybe I just got 2 lemons. I did it 2 times. And I'm a tension nut. I'm really good at adjusting tension. I've had a Janome MB4 for 20 years. It's still going strong. And I love that machine for center and rotating. It really allows you to stay on the screen and stay on your stitch and just follow. And but it doesn't show you the coordinates of where your design is. The Brothers do. But the Brothers make you jump in and out of screens to set your center and rotate positions. And it also doesn't let you do quilting in the hoop easily if your design starts in a position that's not on one of the 9 positions, which I think is crazy. So I have likes and dislikes of all the companies, and I just have to come to the realization that you're not going to get everything you want from just one company. It just, I don't know if they all get together and say, hey, you offer this, I'll offer that. I'm sure they don't, but so, yeah. So I'm not sure what to get next. Everything is working good. I just wish this Janome, I wish it had a pattern shift on the sewing side. In my MB4, I wish it showed me the coordinates on the screen of where I moved things, like the X and Y coordinates. It doesn't show you that. It shows you the rotation, but it doesn't show you the coordinates. And they haven't updated that in all these years. I don't even see it on the newer Janomes, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But they're all too expensive now. I usually just put my fingernail here where I'm supposed to end. I know you're supposed to put a pin, and I have a line on my machine. Let's see if I can zoom in. Well, you can't see the line, but there's a line right here. That line shows you when you're a 1/4 inch away. Well, we're not doing binding. I want the other line that shows me right where the needle is, this line. So when that line gets to my fingernail, I can backstitch. Keep readjusting it. That's good. And you don't have to come all the way down. I'll go 2 back and maybe 1 forward, but I went 2. And that's that. And I have a cutter. Sometimes I use it, sometimes I don't. It's not automatic. So then I would bring this and iron it. Okay, let me go back to 1-to-1. I would just take this and iron it open and then trim it flush. And I would do the same thing at the top. The top I left a little bit hanging over. And then I would do the other long side, and then I would do the short sides. And that's how I'm doing it. And then after this, I think I'm going to do a black border that's wider. Now, these are, you have to make them wider. These are 3 inches, well, 3 and 3 1/8, and a little bit more than 1/8. So 3 3/16. So I want it to be wider than this. So I'll probably make a 4 or 5 inch border, which means I'll cut it 4 1/2 or 5 1/2. And I'll just have to see how it looks, and then I'll be done. And then this quilt will probably end up, I'm not sure. Let's see. If I were to add, what was this? If I were to add another 1 1/2, I say this would be 1 1/2. So let's just go 10, 20, 30, 40. So right now it's 40. Let's just say 42. Plus 1 1/2 and 1 1/2 would be 3 inches. So 42 plus 3, that's 45 wide. Then if I went 5 inches on a border, that'd be 10 more. That'd be 55 inches. And that's enough for a throw, 55 inches. So, but I usually like my throws to be 60 wide. So that would mean then that maybe I'd have to go with a 6-inch border. I don't know how bad that would look. So that would be 55 plus, what did I say? 5 inches to 6 inches. So I'd add an inch on each side, so it'd be 57 wide. That I can live with. So I guess I just talked myself into it. It would be another 6-inch border. Definitely be wider than this. But it's going to be just as wide as this, I believe, then, because these are 6 inches wide. But that's fine, because it's going to be a long border. So that's what I'll do then. So I'll just do this, and then after I'm done with all the borders, then I have to decide what I want to do with these squares, because, or rectangles. Do I want to go through the trouble of putting applique in them, or do I want to, like, on my long arm, make a design and then quilt around that? Or do I want to put an embroidery design on? If I'm going to put an embroidery design on, instead of the applique, and instead of doing it on my long arm, I would put the embroidery design on now before I put it on my long arm and quilted it. But then I would have to quilt around that embroidery design when I'm on the long arm. And I hate doing that. That's why I like it when you have an applique, because if you just quilt it, and then after you're all done quilting, put your applique on. Yes, the applique tack downs are going to show in the back, but you're not going to make them real heavy, you know. You're just going to kind of, like what I showed you with the flower, you're just going to kind of go inside just to make it so it's not puffed out. And with that showing on the back, it's okay. You can make it match the back or not. Maybe you want it to stand out on the back. But that means that after it's all done quilted on the long arm, you have your batting and backing on, then you have to take it to your embroidery machine. In which case, I would probably hoop it the way I do in my videos. I have a quilt and hoop playlist where I show how I, use all my templates and everything. It's a process. So, I don't know. Or I could just forget about it. Don't put anything in here. And just quilt it with an edge to edge. Either using a panto or my quilting designs that I have on using the pounds pad. I have stencils that I made in my embroidery machine, or my embroidery digitizing software, Embird. You can make edge-to-edge designs and then cut those templates on your Cricut Maker or scan and cut or whatever. So I have a lot of decisions to make once I get all these borders done. Decisions to make about this. All right, guys. Well, again, let me know which binding you like. really stuck as to what I like these days. And when I do the corners, by the way, I actually I used to do them differently. I used to leave long threads and have them sticking out, but then I got sick of keeping track of those. And now I just knot, maybe 15 inches of thread, doubled up, make a knot, and I take the needle right into the corner here, and so that the needle comes up, say, like a 1/4 inch from the corner, right here, right along this edge. Okay, zoom in. So I stick the needle in, I slide it in here, and I get it up in there, as best I could. There's probably knots here now. And then I bring it up So it comes out like, I can't get it up in there, like right about there. It comes up right there. And then I pull the needle through and snap it to get the knot to go past this stitching. Sometimes it's hard to get it, but I'm using Omni thread, so it's strong, so you can pull it. Or did I use So Fine for that? No, I used So Fine for the corners because it's a 50 weight. And So Fine is known to be strong. And then I just did a ladder stitch all the way down, and then I didn't bring it to the back to knot and bury. Some of them I did. Some of them I took like right here. I kind of double stitched over it. You can see there's like a double stitch there. You probably can't tell. But I went in and then I went in. Then I made a knot a 1/4 inch away. And then I took that knot like under this double stitch I made, or I might have gone next to it, or I might have gone like under here, not sure. But then I brought that through, and I just brought the needle like all the way through anywhere, pulled it out, and snapped that 1/4 inch knot in. I don't make my knots right flush with the fabric because those can pop out, but if you make them like a 1/4 inch away and then feed it through, you're better off. So, and I didn't, like I said, I didn't do the backs. Probably should if it's a really good quilt. So, and I might have some videos how I knot and bury, but not exactly on these corners here. Sorry, I keep going out of the camera view. I hope I was in the camera view. So, anyways, I'll try to come back and show you the quilt when I've decided what I'm going to do. And you can come along this ugly quilt journey with me. All right, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.